For this month, I promised a reading with the ancestors because October is a time of, certainly where I am, the nights are getting darker and longer. And as those nights draw in, it's when we start to perhaps commune a bit more with our ancestors, be aware of them. This is something that happens. At the same time, I've been sitting for a while with the shape of this particular reading because, well, I've been sitting with, as I'm sure many of us have been, the shape of the world as it is. And so particular ancestors of mine have come through and invited this or offered this spread for our reading. So just a content warning here, although this reading is intended to be empowering and often is these readings are empowering. They do give hope. They are powerful, and something magic happens. The shape of the spread does invite us to confront the nature of the times we're living in. So if you are someone who currently has your nervous system kind of activated by all the things that are going on in the world, if you're not feeling that you want to explore that at this moment, you can always come back later to the recording. And I will also offer you some other more gentle practices, which you can, of course, add to this reading. So I just want to put that content warning in there. So we're living in interesting times. I think we can all agree that. Things seem to be happening at a pace. And I know that a lot of the people here, a lot of the people, my students, people that I work with are dealing with the realities of kind of lots of different things going on in the world, which are very, very challenging. And I've been thinking about this for a while and thinking about, where can we look for sources of support, of hope, of inspiration, ways forward, ways to react that are helpful and useful within our spiritual lives. How do we confront living in times which seem to be interesting, I believe is the word for it. And so I called in some of my ancestors. Now I have 5 ancestors in particular who lived through World War II. So that sort of finished 80 years ago, and they all lived through those times. They all did different things, and they all lived on into old age. And so they survived those times, and they went on to have full lives after surviving those times and to thrive. They all had families. That's why I'm here now. And they all lived to old age. So I wanted to invite them in and invite in any advice that they might have from their experience of living through life-changing, world-changing, society-changing events. Now, at the same time, I would like to be really clear. There isn't something special about, my personal ancestors that meant that they survived when other people didn't. There is an element of chance, and our first position here in the spread is chance, because of where they were born and who they were born, which is entirely chance. They had a greater chance of living through, of surviving World War II than a Jewish family born in Nazi Germany, for example. So I just want to acknowledge that my grandparents and great aunties and so on didn't survive because they had some special quality. There was an element of chance to that as well. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, because often we see value systems in the world which don't separate resilience and chance. So our first position is chance in this reading, and it is the position of things which are outside of our control, the way things fall, but also how we can respond to that as well. So that is our sort of top position here in the reading. And then I have these 5 positions inspired by particular people in my ancestry. So I'll talk you through them, and then we'll pull some cards. So the first is, I had a grandparent who was a soldier. He was old enough to fight in World War II. He drove a tank. And so he literally fought Nazis and fought fascists. And this position, he is here to remind us that it is possible to fight fascism. So this is our position here. I had another grandparent who was in the land army here in Britain. So Britain is an island, and we often rely on outside sources of food, although we do have our agricultural economy. And when all the young men went off to fight war, the young, strong women became what was known as the land army, and they'd go out to work on the farms to create, to make sure that we had food, basically. And so this position is about the practical side of things. What practical things need to be done as we survive these interesting times. I had another grandparent who was a child when World War II broke out. 12 years old, and lived in a city in the Midlands that was heavily bombed. So I can't imagine what it's like at 12 years old to suddenly have to be running for the air raid shelters every night, or to be evacuated into a stranger's home, which also happened to her a couple of times. But that was her entire growing up, her entire adolescence. So this position represents both the fearful child within, for whom, that moment of realization that the world isn't always an easy place, or doesn't always feel safe, but also the resilience gained by growing up in that circumstance. And another grandparent who was in education and training, I think an apprenticeship throughout the war, wasn't old enough to join the army until just after the war, and went and did national service, went over to Germany and learned there to become a mechanic. So this is a position of learning. He was learning throughout the entire time of the war. And I had an auntie who was in the Red Cross. And so the Red Cross, as you know, is an organisation that delivers aid, delivers medical treatment, healing. So, aid, medical treatment, healing. And actually, between the 5 of them, I think they give a good spread of the kinds of skills that we need to cultivate in the times that we're living in now. And then I have these 2 positions at the bottom. And the first position is, so these are kind of what can we do positions. This is all, what are the circumstances, what advice do we have from these experiences, and these 2 positions are what we can do positions. And they are positions which are innately intertwined. So the first is, how do we look after ourselves and our loved ones? And the second is, how do we ensure that the world is fair for everyone. Now, those who would like to sow division will peddle the myth that if we're looking after those people over there, that somehow means there's not enough for us. And that, unless those people over there are billionaires, that's just absolutely not true. There is enough for everybody, and helping other people, helping our wider communities, anyone who needs it, does not take anything away from me and mine. And this is really important to remember. There is no conflict between these two positions. We can look after ourselves, our close people, our loved ones, and we can look after our wider communities in the whole world. And that's what these two positions are about. So that is that's the spread that we're going to be using today. And it's another one that's been coming for months, kind of filtering through, and now is the time. And the deck that I'm going to be using today is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, which is by Phyllis Curott with artwork by Danielle Barlow. I haven't used this deck in a public reading yet, but it is a powerful deck. It's very different, as you'll see, and it wanted to be the deck today. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to draw a deep breath, go inside, and just ask to receive what you need. And you might call in any ancestors of yours that you'd like to invite to be with you for this reading, known or unknown. And if they perhaps have their own messages for you, maybe you will hear those as well in the words that come with this reading and the images of the cards. So the first card is chance, and this is the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and that we don't get to choose, and that we can only respond to. And the card for this is the Sun, and I'm really, really happy that this came out. Now, this is a major arcana card, and you'll see that unlike in some major arcanas, it actually has the number 3 rather than 19, which would be the traditional number for the Sun. And that's because in this deck, it's a witch's deck, and it explores the idea of shamanic dismemberment, which is that as part of an initiation, a shamanic practitioner or someone who is called to walk between the worlds will be dismembered, torn apart, and then made whole again. And we find this in myth all over the world, and in story, and so to represent this, they've done the major arcana backwards. So the card is the Sun, and here we see a young person smiling at us, directly at us, with the sun shining behind them, butterflies, a bird in the sky, flowers in their arms, and so I love the Sun card because it is so. I've never seen it come out in a reading and not bring something positive with it, and it's wonderful for it to come up in this position of chance. Because it shows us, I believe, the way that we can respond to chance and how we can show up. And I get the impression that this young person in this card is offering us their heart. The Sun is a card of authenticity, of showing up as you are, as shining out in the world. And I believe what we're being invited to do with this card coming out in this position of chance is to show up in all authenticity and integrity, to act from love, from the heart, to act as if the sun, the energy of the sun, is with us all the time, is always shining on us. So it's easy to be fearful when lots of things are happening at once and a lot of it sort of feels out of control. But the sun is here to tell us that we can only respond from our authenticity, from our integrity, and with love. And with it being the number 3, this also has echoes of the Empress. And the Empress card, of course, is all about staying grounded, staying nurtured, nurturing ourselves and each other, and being in touch with our sense of place and our environment. So it's a beautiful, beautiful energy to have with us, a lovely one to invite in. So whatever our circumstances, whatever is happening around us, we have that energy of the sun with us. It's there with us, it's available to us, and we just need to breathe into, I'm going to say, the solar plexus, and remind ourselves, feel into our energy and remind ourselves that that is there. Our next position then, the soldier, that reminder that it's always possible to fight fascism. And we have the Ace of Water. I'm really pleased as the cards we've had come up so far are very, very gentle, peaceful cards. The energies which are represented by this deck have got our backs. They're in alignment with us as long as we are showing up from the heart. And again, the Ace of Water is about the heart. The water, the suit of water, sometimes the suit of cups, is about the emotions. And in this card, you can see a spring, a stream, pouring down onto a rock, and then 3 little streams pouring off of that into a pool. Lots of greenery around, and a little frog sitting there looking into the water. And again, this is a reminder that in our hearts, we know what's right. We know right from wrong. And it's really, really important to tap into that sense of what is right in your heart, and to come from the heart and act from the heart. And that might mean that we end up fighting for what we believe in. Fighting's a funny thing. It's not something to do lightly, but sometimes it is necessary, and there are different ways to fight. But I believe the guidance here is that if you're feeling called to fight, then do follow your heart. And remember, even this can be done from a place of love. We are not... I've called this position or mentioned in this position, I mentioned it twice, this is the 3rd time, fighting fascism, and that is fighting against something. But we're not called just to fight against things. We are called to fight for things. So what is in our hearts? Love, integrity, kindness, fairness, common decency, justice. Any fight that we get involved in, whatever kind of fight that is, we have to remember what we're fighting for and not just what we're fighting against. There are a lot of fear narratives out there, and we cannot allow ourselves to be caught up in fear. We have to remember what's important, to put any feelings of fear aside, to remember what's important, and again, to come from the heart, to come from that integrity. Our next position then, and this was the land army, so the the practical side of things, how do we make sure everyone has enough? How do we feed everyone? How do we do the logistics and the practical side? And actually, as I was saying that and shuffling, a card has fallen out. So I believe it's a card for us. Excuse me while I reach down for it. And it's another water card. This is the messenger of water. And in this card is depicted the Selkie woman. So we've got a seal and a woman both swimming under the water amid the kelp. And the story of the Selkie woman. I'll tell it very, very briefly. I'll give you the outline of it because it's important, because it has come up in the card, so it's obviously important to the reading. It is one of my personal stories as well, and it's an old story that comes from the Atlantic coast, particularly of Scotland and Ireland. I believe you'll find versions of it in places like Iceland as well. And the Selkie woman, she's a seal. And one night she comes ashore at the full moon with her sisters, and they all shed their selkie, their seal skins, to take on human form and dance under the moonlight. And they dance all night, and when it comes to dawn, all of the Selkie sisters go and put back on their sealskins and return to the water. But this one Selkie woman, she can't find her skin. It's gone. And so she goes in quest of her skin, and there are lots of different variations of this story, where she learns to habituate to the land, where she makes a family on the land. Sometimes she's been tricked by the person who marries her, has stolen her skin. But always eventually she finds her skin again, and then she has the choice of going back to the water, back to her previous life, or staying on the land in the life that she's made now. So, there are very rich themes through this story about who we are and where we belong. And this position was of the land army. So a lot of the young women that went to do the work like the land army, they went away and to the farms, and they had a different kind of life than they might have done if they'd stayed in the cities, and if there hadn't been a war on and a need to for them to do that work which had previously traditionally mostly been done by men. I won't say completely, because women have always worked. There is a myth that working women is new, but that's not true. But what that was is that she got a chance to experience the world differently, to gain new skills, and to be valued in a different way, just as the Selkie woman on the land had a different experience than the Selkie woman in the sea. And then there came a point of time where the question was, do I go back to the sea? Do I stay on the land? And that choice and how they find the skin is different for every Selkie. But it may be that you find yourself, or you are soon to find yourself, in a position where you're doing things that are practical that you maybe didn't expect to do, or that are very different from your established skill set, and that give you a different perspective on life. And that this is a gift which is being offered to you. Okay, so the next position, and this is the child who grew up having to develop resilience, having resilience forced on her through living through difficult times. So this is the resilience that we are gaining by necessity. Oh, and look at this. It's healing. So this is Major Arcana number 8, which is often strength, but in this deck it is healing. And here you can see figures of people sort of in a circle, holding hands, reaching out to each other, sparkles of light, beautiful bright light, leaves, all in a circle with a star at the center. And this is just a reminder that whatever we live through, we heal from. Healing is available. It is possible now. I said to you, all of these people, all of these ancestors, they lived through this world-changing, life-changing event that was very, very difficult and very frightening. And I don't know all the different choices they had to make. But they all then went on to have full lives. That was not the sum total of their experience. And that is something to remember when things are difficult, that, the difficult times cannot last forever. Even when they're very intense, even when they do last a long time, they cannot last forever. And that there is much beauty in life and there is much healing in life. And often people who are called towards healing, being on a journey of healing for themselves or sharing healing with others, the two often come hand in hand. It is because they have had to develop that kind of resilience, those kind of difficulties. So I really love that this card healing is there for us. All of these cards so far, they give me a real sense of hope, that, there is hope. And I'm reminded that, yes, there are a lot of atrocious things going on in the world at the moment, and that must be acknowledged and not denied. And at the same time, there is hope. All is not lost. And indeed, we have healing. This, with all these people in a circle, reaching to each other, holding hands, they're doing different things. Some are sat in meditation, some are dancing, some are have their arms held out. There is more that unites us than divides us. And there is more in the world that wishes to create healing, to create good, than there is that wishes to destroy. And I think that's a lovely message for us to get. Our next position then, and this is learning. So this is the person who was learning throughout World War II and just afterwards, and took skills from that to take through the rest of his life. So learning. What can we learn in these times? It's another water card. We've had so many water cards. And this is the 9 of water. And it's a salmon leaping upstream. And this is the salmon of wisdom. So there is a pool at the top of the stream where the salmon of wisdom comes each year to eat the hazelnuts, and the hazelnuts give them wisdom. So the salmon is a symbol of ancient wisdom. And it speaks for itself, really, in this position of learning. What we're gaining is wisdom. There may be a sense sometimes of swimming upstream, which might ask us to work harder than perhaps is comfortable. At the same time, the salmon naturally swim upstream. They're built for it. They're capable of it. They're able to do it. And there in the pool at the top of the stream is wisdom. The 9 of Cups, it's again card of the heart. Water, cups, the heart, the emotions, intuition, the unconscious. And the 9 of Cups is often about having enough and to spare. So sometimes you see a figure with 9 cups, and I always think that they are ready for if their friends come round or anyone comes round and asks for a drink, they have plenty to offer, plenty to share. And this is an emotional state of plenty, of being willing to share. And that is a kind of wisdom in itself, isn't it? So with that 9 of water being there, it's a reminder again that there is plenty to go around, and that what we are learning right now, what we are receiving right now, is wisdom. And this 5th ancestor character here is the one who was in the Red Cross. So that, the Red Cross established organization, providing aid and medical care to anyone who needs it. So this position is what aid, what care is available, and how can we ensure the presence of that care for everyone. And we have an earth card, but it has a pool in it. So this card has a pool at the center of it. It's a pool in a stone. The stone looks like it even has a kind of cat-like face in the shape of it. And there are little sort of cracks running towards the pool, which are filled with moss. And there are little lizards as well moving towards the pool. And of course, even though this is an earth card, we have this water. Water is life. And so the water is there at the center of it all, providing the needs for everyone, for the moss, for the lizards, shaping the stone and being contained by the stone at the same time. And the 6 of Earth is the 6 of Pentacles. And this is the card of giving and receiving. Now, often in a personal reading, an individual reading, that will come up when the person needs to look at their attitudes to giving and receiving. And most of the people that I work with find it more difficult to receive than to give. Everybody's happy to give. People find it difficult to receive. At the same time, some of the narratives in the world around us at the moment like I mentioned when I explained these 2 positions, there's a feeling of imbalance. There are people at the moment who are afraid that if I give to them, there'll be nothing left for me. If someone else gives to them, there won't be anything for me. And this is a fear which is being exploited to sow division in our communities. And the 6 of Pentacles tells us that is not the case. There is enough for everyone. Energy doesn't die, it only moves on. What goes around comes around. There is enough for everyone. There is plenty on this earth. And in this position of Red Cross, of aid, of particularly medical aid, but whatever's needed, this water here is nourishing the lizards and the moss. It has a place in the rock. This is not a load of separate entities. This is a living ecosystem, and that is a really important message for us. The next position then, how do we take care of ourselves and our loved ones, our kind of close network when times are difficult? How do we make sure that we are safe and secure and have enough? And I love this. This is the 2 of Earth, or the 2 of Pentacles. And under the roots of a tree in a burrow, Mama Bear and Baby Bear are sleeping snuggled together. So this is an invitation to make your home your sanctuary. And I don't know how true this is of people who are watching. I know that for me, I do let news sneak into my home, and it upsets me. It puts me on edge. And often there are things that I can do nothing about, but that nevertheless play on my mind. It is important to be informed and to be willing to take responsibility for what you can do, but at the same time, you must have a haven. You must create a safe space for you and for yours. And that's what this is. Mama Bear and Baby Bear snuggled under the earth. The earth is about security, safety. It's the material realm, so it is about your home. And so this is an invitation to perhaps be intentional about how you create the sanctuary of your home. And so that might be about, getting rid of clutter, how the space is physically managed. That might be about the energy. It might be about the behaviors that you have, the thoughts that you allow in. Are you, do you have this haven for yourself and your loved ones where you can just have that love and feel safe and actually switch off from all the external input that's going on, because without this sense of your home being a haven, then you don't have a haven if your home isn't. So it's an invitation to perhaps consider whether you are doing everything that you can to make your home into that haven. And I don't necessarily, we're talking about security, but this isn't necessarily, lock all the doors, close all the windows kind of security. This is about creating psychological security, energetic security. So, what makes you feel safe? What makes you feel powerful? What makes you feel strong? Because cultivating those things in your home is the only way you're ever going to be strong and powerful enough to respond to the things that are going on outside. So make sure this is also, it's not just about space, it's about time. So how much of your time are you allocating to cultivating your own sense of security, and not just in your home, in your body, in your nervous system? Is the cortisol always, is the adrenaline always shooting around your veins? Or are you giving yourself time for good sleep, good rest, deep breathing, good food, all of the pleasure, physical pleasure, all of the things that make us feel safe in our bodies, that give us the ability to inhabit our bodies in the world, in a way that is the most powerful for us. And then finally, what can we do to make sure that that everybody is okay, not just us and our close ones? And I will reiterate that there is no conflict between these two positions. Instead, they reinforce each other. And here we go. Look, it's strength. Number 14, because of the switched major arcana in this deck. And look at that. Look at all those different animals standing together. So we have a human woman with a staff. That the staff in magical tradition grounds her into the earth. It is the way of connecting with the power of the earth. We have the earth here as well in our personal space, and she's standing shoulder to shoulder with a moose, an owl, a polar bear, a ram, I think that's a coyote, a beaver, lots of different animals. And they've all come together. So this is a reminder that it really is the message of this reading, that we are stronger together than we are separate. And that we have more in common than we have different. So all of these different animals in this card, including the human animal, and including the plant life there, actually, the staff and the vines are all over her dress. We all benefit when the world is a safe place. We all benefit when we're taking care of the environment. We all benefit when we're taking care of each other. And this is our strength, and we cannot surrender that strength to division and narratives of division. And we will not surrender that strength to division and narratives of division. Everybody benefits from things being better. I'm going to give an example. I do a little bit of accessibility consultancy sometimes. And one of the great truths that we sometimes have to remind people when they are looking to do accessibility, but to do it on the often they want to meet the minimum legal requirements and not to go for true accessibility. And so, one of the things that is said within the accessibility community is that, when something is made accessible for one person or one group of people, it becomes more accessible for everyone. And this is that. This is when things are made, when one group of people is given security, safety, a home, the opportunity to work, to learn, to receive healthcare, all the basic human rights. When human rights are afforded to every human, as they should be, every human benefits. And it's not just humans, is it? We've got lots of different beings who share our planet with us. And again, when the environment is made more sustainable, a better place for the animals and the plant life and the beings that we share our planet with, when that is safeguarded, it's better for everyone, including the humans. So this is our message. And so I'm really pleased with these cards that have come out. I knew this was the right deck for this reading. I'm grateful to the ancestors who have joined us to reinforce this message that there is hope. There is far more hope than there is division. Our communities are strong. There is no reason to fear the other. We must act from our integrity, from our authenticity, from our hearts. And even when we are fighting against that which is evil, we must remember that which is good and that which is important and that which matters to us, which is love, which is compassion, which is kindness, which is decency, all of these good things. This is our message from the ancestors, from the heart.